Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. Support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys. Head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Going into the future, and then into the past, and then into the present. Woo!
That is what happens. Hi, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
My name is David Bell.
And I am past, present, and future Tom.
And we just watched The Atom Project.
The Atom Project.
Atom. No, it's Atom, not Atom.
I think it's Atom in the movie, but Atom is the title. Wink.
Fine.
Can we maybe slow down? There's no one even following us.
Don't look back. Look up.
I think we're about to have some company. Stop the car.
What? What?
Stop! Go, 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 go. Reverse! Laura, this is me.
Hi. Parallel contact, babe.
Well, you know, you've always said that you've wished you'd met me earlier. Here I am.
The Atom Project and his package.
Ooh, I love Atom and his package.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I love that band. No one knows that band.
He's got to be like 80 now, right? He's at least 100 years old and dead.
Yeah. Shout out to all you Atom and his package fans.
Yeah.
Punk Rock Academy.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. Let's just talk about Atom and his package. What? So this came out on the Netflix.
Yeah.
We could have done Turning Red. I realized now.
Oh yeah, I suppose we could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It just didn't occur to me.
Well, I mean, I think this month is kind of dry after the Batman, so maybe we do it next week.
Yeah, maybe.
In terms of
what's
theatrical releases, I don't think much of anything.
I've heard nothing good things about Turning Red, and I've already seen pieces of it thanks to my niece and nephew.
Oh, right, it's on Disney Plus. Because
it's on the road.
They just keep sacrificing Pixar on the altar of their streaming service.
Of course they do.
Just massacring that studio's. Anyway, that's a topic for a different podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. This is that Ryan Reynolds.
Sean Levy. Yep.
How many Levies are there? There's a David Levy.
I don't know David Levy.
I thought there was a David Levy. Which one's Sean Levy? Isn't there a Levy in Schitt's Creek that's not Eugene?
Yeah, Daniel
Levy. Okay, so maybe I was thinking of Daniel.
And also Eugene Levy's. It's actually Levy. Eugene Levy's daughter is also in it. I forget her name, but she plays the waitress at the diner on Schitt's Creek.
Okay, they got that Baldwin energy.
Mm-hmm.
This is Sean, who directed Free Guy.
Yeah, and also he's
this one
producer on Stranger Things and has directed a few of those episodes as well.
Okay, and this is it was like a time travel. They really pushed it as like the next Back to the Future, which we talked about on Hypecast.
Yeah, it's they're pushing it as like a next Spielberg type movie. Like there's E.T. elements in it. It's got Back to the Future in it.
Yeah.
It's got I feel like there's a little bit of Last Starfighter in
Flight
there.
of the Navigator. There's some Flight of the Navigator.
Definitely Flight of the Navigator. Yeah, neither of those are Spielberg, but the point is it's trying to recapture that 80s kids sci-fi vibe.
Right. And I have something to say about that.
Sure.
But we should first start by talking about how we like the film. How'd you like the film?
That is a complicated answer, surprisingly. Like
same.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of this film, and then I really didn't like other parts of the film.
Yeah, I think this movie stumbles, and it's a rough beginning, unfortunately. This movie stumbles a lot because it's trying to do too many jokes, I think. Like it doesn't.
It's trying to do too many things.
It's wearing a lot of hats. I think it's trying to be too wacky, but like when it's actually at the same time, it is like surprisingly profound about grief.
Yes, that's the funny thing is this movie doesn't forget character stuff. And so I would my overall critique is that I didn't like the beginning and I didn't like the climax.
The climax,
not necessarily the ending.
The climax was bad. The ending is great. The climax was bad.
Yes. Climax was like fucking 2003.
Yeah, I have
like
no
Spy
idea. Like
Kids,
it was
Agent Cody Banks.
It was very Agent Cody. It was ludicrous, but like. That's like this movie. Every dramatic scene is very, very good. Like surprisingly good.
Very good. Extremely good.
So it's
the
like
part at the bar with his mom. Extremely good.
That's like every dramatic scene is good.
The highs are high.
The highs are surprisingly high in this movie. Like I did not expect, especially when this movie begins with like just really overdone Ryan Reynolds comedy. A lot of it's coming out of the mouth of this kid, and you're like, no kid behaves like adult Ryan Reynolds. So it's like really trying to be jokey, like too jokey right at the top. But then, like you get once it hits its first like real dramatic beat, you're like, what the fuck? And then like the rest of the movie is like that, where it'll have these dips of like. Really, like some of the action is okay, but like a lot of the jokes and stuff are like too much. It's like trying too much to be that like ironic wisecracking tone. But when it drops
it's the
shit,
the kid is it's not the kid. The actor's fine, but the lines they have him say, it's just like, fuck.
I was gonna say that like the kid is good. They have him do a lot of
very good.
They have him do a lot of things that are not appealing. Like him trying to be like, I understand why they would want him to try to behave like Ryan Reynolds, so you could be like, oh, I could see how he would grow up into him. But like, no kid has that fully formed personality of an adult Ryan Reynolds. It's like,
right, and it's tough because like you look at Shane Black will have the clever kid, but for some reason he does it well. And I think I always try to figure out.
He doesn't overdo it like this.
Doesn't. Yeah, I think it's that.
This movie will have the kid make like 7 ironic observations within the same minute and a half.
Right.
And it's like
no kid calm the fuck down.
Yeah, no kid is this ironic.
And he does. Yeah, he doesn't talk like a human being for a single line. For a
while. That I think ultimately. The biggest problem with this movie is it feels like it's too afraid to be completely genuine, which is a shame because when it is genuine, it's like really fucking good.
Yes. I think it's that. And so they talk about like, next Back to the Future, right? Next Spielberg. The problem is that you can't do that and just be ridiculously derivative.
Yeah.
Like that's my biggest issue with this movie is that it feels like it's trying too hard to be like every other movie. It has that Netflix sheen, that we've gotten used to. And then like you look at Back to the Future, you look at Flight of the Navigator, you look at E.T. What did those all have in common? They or Bill and Ted, they all did something weird and original, and this they're like, to time travel, it's a CGI jet that looks like everything else. The moment the combat started, I was like, whoop, that's a bad idea.
Right, like why
they have him fight like a Jedi?
Why does he have a lights? Like they make a joke about it, like that's a lightsaber. Dude, it's like, yeah, it is a lightsaber. Why does he have one? Why,
right,
Dave? Why do the time machines have guns?
I don't know. I don't know why they felt the need to make it a superhero film, except for some producer in the room probably said, you got big. And that, honestly, I think that's going to date the film so fast.
Yeah.
Because like you look at the films of Spielberg that they're trying to imitate, you look like Marty McFly isn't doing ninja kicks. You know?
They're both of their time, but they're also timeless because it focused on the heart of the story and the characters primarily.
Exactly.
And when this movie does that, it's very good. So it's like you guys had it. You had it. You still have it. Like it's in the movie. Just be more confident in that aspect. It's frustrating to watch.
You could almost do a cut of this movie where you like. The weirdest thing is I would cut out all the action if I was making this movie. If I was a producer,
most of it's unnecessary. Yeah. It's just it really
it
does
didn't
just
need to be an action film.
Yeah, it really does just feel like, well, we got to throw some spinning lightsaber and some cool action scenes in there so it can compete with other blockbusters. It's that suffocating blockbuster template that exists right now.
It's the four quadrant
PG-13 action blockbuster. It's like, no, you didn't need that stuff. Like, this is, when you strip all that stuff away, this is like a really profound movie that has good scenes and like a good message. Like, this could have been much better than it is. Like, it
really could have.
I feel like this could have been a movie that would withstand the test of time. Now, I mean, as it exists, I don't think that it will. I could be wrong, because like what you pointed out has all that stuff that really dates it. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those movies that people don't talk about too much, and then you'll go back and watch. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example where, like, you ever watch, like, you ever watch, like, an old movie you haven't seen in a while since a kid, and then it's, like, filled with, like, bad 80s music or, like, a bad skateboarding scene or something where you're like, oh, God, I forgot this was... I forgot this was so fucking dated. It's going to be like that. Like, I think people might have fond memories of this. You grow up, you go back and watch it, and you're like, you watch... Because I do think those fight scenes will be embarrassing. They will be embarrassing one day where we look back and go, where we go, I can't believe we were cramming this
like,
shit.
Why is he a ninja?
It's like Mac and Me when they dance at the McDonald's.
Yes.
It's that shit.
When they dance at the McDonald's for 6 minutes.
Right, and it's like, I can't fucking believe we thought this was a good idea.
Yeah. It's like, why on earth is he a spin flippy Jedi ninja? It's like, what the... Okay.
Right. And it was probably because some producer was like, you gotta have action in there. Or whoever, like, thought that was necessary. Because, it otherwise, a lot of fucking heart throughout this movie.
It's, other than those things, this movie is... quite good, and I keep it surprisingly so. Like, it really knocked me on my back foot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, no, that bar scene.
The bar
was
scene,
like, shit.
The final scene with Ryan Reynolds and his dad. It's like, Jesus. Like, this movie has a lot surprisingly profound things to say about.
I didn't expect. No, to say about grief. I didn't expect them to keep the dad dead.
Yeah.
It actually...
Kudos. Kudos.
Yes. Well, kudos mainly because it was really easy to not kill him.
That's the ending you're expecting, is we're doing time travel.
Is that,
they'll bring his dad back, but they don't, and that's really, really important that they don't.
It is, but like, I was waiting for them to reveal that his car accident wasn't an accident.
Sure,
that he was murdered.
Right? Yeah,
like that made sense to me. That makes sense in the plot.
That would have made sense in the plot because the bad guy is Catherine Keener, his partner, who screws over the timeline to rule time travel. So it's like, from jump, you're thinking anytime in a movie like this where it was like, oh, he died in a car accident. And it's like a sci-fi movie, or like there's a thriller or espionage elements to it. Immediately, your brain is like, I don't think that was a fucking accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the princess died him. Yeah. And so, like, that's it. Not only did I expect that, but I wasn't even going to be angry if that was the case. It just felt so natural.
Right. It would have made perfect narrative sense. Like, I wouldn't have been mad. I would have been a little miffed after experiencing everything that the movie has to say about grief. And then they buy it back at the end by having the dad come back.
I guarantee there was a version.
I'm sure there was.
Happened.
And I respect the hell.
It might have even been the first draft.
Yeah. I respect the hell out of whomever decided that the dad should stay dead at the end.
Right. That's the thing, is this didn't need to be about grief, but if it wasn't, there'd be nothing here.
Well, that's kind of, honestly, if you take, well, we'll go through the plot in a second, I swear, guys. But if you're starting with time travel as your concept, that's like grief and regret are kind of the only things to play with time travel. If you want to make a movie if you want to make a story that's like about something, it's not the only things, but those are like the things that come to mind. Like, when do we wish that we could time travel? It's usually in the past, not the future. And it's because we want to fix some tragedy. It's regret or grief. It's
either that, or we want to go back and have sex with ourselves and be our own parent.
We want to fuck dinosaurs and be emperor of Prehistoria. It's one of those two things.
It's
And
wild how Back to the Future, one of the movies that they clearly, want us to think of, doesn't do any of that. And it is, in fact, extremely irresponsible with time travel. Like, you'd think that'd be the lesson in Back to the Future, but he just goes and makes his life better.
the movie,
And just
I would push back a little bit. It is a little bit about those ideas. It's just not as intense in its emotions, and it's not as upfront about it. But it is about like fixing something that was wrong.
Right, but it's very funny because Doc constantly talks about affecting
Right,
time.
of course.
But it literally is, the first story is the story of Marty going back in time to get himself a cool car. Like, that's like
Essentially, yeah.
They fundamentally they do what Kathleen Keener does in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, they're the Biff in this movie.
Right, she is both. She does both the Biff and the Marty thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she does both things, and yeah, I think we've talked about that on past podcasts. But yeah,
of course.
Doc Brown's whole thing is like, a time machine is too dangerous, but like all they ever do is fuck with the timeline to better their own situations. That's all they do.
It's very much the same with Marvel, where they're like, this can't fall into the wrong hands, and it's like
your hands are the wrong hands.
Yeah, exactly. Shouldn't it not fall into any hands?
Right.
Like, that's the same with Back to the Future, where they're like, oh, I never should have invented that
And
time
he
machine
builds
if I knew
another
that
one,
Biff
Dave.
would get it.
He builds
Yeah,
a giant
he keeps
time
building
train.
Yeah, time train. Time train. Where are you
Anyway.
going to go in that time train, Doc? Anyway. With your kids who shouldn't exist. With your dead wife.
You're out. Yeah, everything about your family is unholy and outside of nature.
Yeah. You have caused an amazing ripple in time. Like, every other movie, he would be hunted down.
Yeah.
By time cops.
Yeah.
There
would be a legion of time. Like, he is the most wanted man in every parallel dimension.
Yeah. It's some Rick and Morty shit.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the idea that's the thread that Rick and Morty pulls 100%.
Right.
Anyway.
So this movie, it starts in a way that I would argue they shouldn't have done this cold open. I don't know. They start with Ryan Reynolds going to the past, and he's getting shot at in his big stupid jet, which looks like everything else. And I think it would have been more compelling to start with the kid.
Yeah, should have started with the kid.
Yeah, we didn't really need that sequence, but we see so there's a few suspensions of disbelief things that I was fine with personally. He gets gut shot. And throughout the film, it is not a problem.
It's only a problem when they need it to be. Yeah,
and it's one of those where I'm like, I think you would die. Like, I'm pretty sure that you got shot through the stomach. I thought it was like he was future healing or something.
Yeah, but it's kind of, they try to do the thing where it's like, it's not right through his belly. It's like low to the left side, right. But it's like, I feel like that would still like punch through his kidney or something.
He'd never be the same again.
Yeah.
But they treat it like he literally just has to stay off his feet.
That's movies.
Sometimes.
I don't mind that too much.
Like I said, this is suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it either, but they really ask a lot. Like, I've never seen a movie treat a gunshot wound this casually. I really don't think I've seen something that, I guess when Tony Stark got stabbed by Thanos and just like froze it. But even he had like some sort of future healing, it seemed like.
Yeah, he had nanobots and shit.
Yeah, it was weird that they didn't have Ryan Reynolds see like, oh, I have this like future medicine, but whatever. And so the concept is he goes back to 2022 accidentally. He's trying to go to 2018, and he doesn't run into. He specifically targets his young self, and he just doesn't give a fuck. And they kind of gloss over it as. They explain as much as you need to, which he basically says like, yeah, once I go back, my memory will change and I'll remember this.
It's frequency rules.
It's frequency rules, yeah, and that's fine. And the ship, this is another big ask, I thought. The ship won't function if you're injured. It's like tied to his DNA, and for some reason it won't work if you're injured,
that
which I thought
make any
like
sense.
No, because if you're time traveling, if anything, if you're injured, the ship would be like, yes, let's get out of here. Like, we don't want to leave this ship behind.
Imagine any piece of technology not working if you were injured, like your car not starting. It's like, no, if I'm injured, this is the time I need my car to start the most. Like,
right.
This
And like
is urgent.
but especially like the implication is like, plausible deniability, like, oh, if you're injured, you're on your own. But in time travel, that wouldn't make any sense. It would just be like, no, that's more reason.
Yeah.
You don't want to die in the past. You don't want someone finding all that stuff.
It is a bizarre rule they put in just to give us an excuse to bring the kid along.
Right, which is why it's like you're like, I'll allow it, I guess. It makes as much sense as anything in Back to the Future,
Yeah,
where
sure.
it's like, that's the sort of stuff where it's like, I don't give a shit, I get the kind of movie you're making here. And so he basically just kind of starts pushing around his young self to help him. And we reveal that he is actually trying to save his wife.
Yes.
And so the idea is that she was a test pilot and she vanished in 2018 and never came back. And they said it was like an accident, but something seemed wrong about it. And it seemed like her death was perhaps covered up, or a cover up, rather.
Yeah. And her flight logs were erased. Like there are
Yeah, so
reasons
he
for
went
him
rogue.
to suspect that something fucked up happened.
So he went rogue. And so it's an interesting start because it uncovers a larger conspiracy.
Yeah.
And so this is when things start falling apart, because there's these fun and games where he's just hanging out with his young self, trying to get him to stand up to bullies. He runs into his own mom at a bar, and like the kid's dad had just died. So he's like really mean to his mom.
Yeah.
And there's this whole bit where he's just like, you're going to feel sick the way you treated her all these years. And that was the stuff that was great.
Yeah.
Where it's like, he's mad at his younger self.
Yeah.
He's mad.
He's just, he is mad. Like that's his characteristic.
Yeah.
They have a scene later where they just lay it out for you, which is still a good scene.
Good scene.
Yeah,
and so the idea is he's looking at his younger self with distaste, because his younger self did not treat his mom well after the dad died. And then he meets the mom at the bar and he like gives her advice, and it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Where he tells her like, you need to let your son know that you don't have it all together. That's all he sees. And like, it's very well done.
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is killing it in these
Everyone
scenes.
is like Jennifer Garner in those scenes is great.
Oh yeah.
This movie's traumatic scenes are very good.
They're really good. These people are pros.
Yeah.
Because they knew that was what they were going for.
Yeah.
They knew it's about people. They have good instincts.
Yes.
When it comes to telling the story when it comes to the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there's just, for whatever reason, that modern sensibilities leaked in, and they weren't. This just really needed to be a phone booth type of situation, not the movie phone booth. I needed something where it's like, okay, you're going to do Back to the Future, you're going to do time travel. Give me something I haven't seen before. Make it grounded, or make it weird. And this is where things start going wrong. Is at the house, Ryan Reynolds uses his dog sense or something to he notices that they're coming, and then it just explodes into an action scene between him and what are essentially
nowhere.
Stormtroopers.
Yeah. Out of nowhere, these guys. It's been fun and games. E.T. only with your future self, basically. Like he's hiding Ryan Reynolds in his garage, and then all of a sudden it explodes into a superhero Jedi fight in his backyard. It is wild.
Yeah. And it was such a bad idea. Like the kids' dialogue aside, for the most part, before this moment, I was like, I'm with this movie. Like the kids' dialogue got a little grating. But the moment he started fucking flipping in the air, like when Neo fought Agent Smith, where it's this rubber Ryan Reynolds type shit, where it's he's
slamming his bow staff in the ground to blast these stormtroopers away with a wave of energy. This is It's fucking whiplash when this happens.
Yeah, and it is so inappropriate.
It's dumb. It's so dumb. And it's oh my gosh, you're stabbing this heartfelt, genuine story you have between these characters just right in the chest each time you explode into one of these goofball action sequences.
And they do this thing where he kills them, and he says people die different.
Yeah.
not in their time, and I'm like, sure, man, whatever gets you around the censors.
They time cop away. It's kind of sweet.
It is kind of sweet, but it's also like so sanitized.
Right?
It's like,
yeah, of course.
He'll hit them with this stick, not even in a fatal way, and they'll just pop like a balloon into dust, and it's like, huh? Like it's just so sanitized in video game and inappropriate.
That honestly made his staff like unspeakably terrifying to me because like because sometimes he's nailing dudes in the side of the head, and then other times he's just. But it's like, what the fuck is that staff doing that you whack somebody in the head, which still would be a problem, but they just instantly die.
Right, I don't know what it's a lightsaber.
Dudes and they explode. My God, what is that thing? Like, if they weren't turning to dust, what would this have looked like? It's like I don't know. Is the energy in that staff like frying their blood or something? Like, what the fuck? Like, I really want to see what those deaths were supposed to have looked like. In their own timeline, because it's probably horrific.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like he shoots a guy right underneath the chin and he turns into dust, and it's like, boy, that dude's brain would have come out of his head. Like you are being so ruthlessly violent.
Yeah.
And it's
really weird.
Right up until that moment, it's been like this surprisingly heavy story about a kid who's lost his dad, and now he's seeing his older self who is still angry about that loss. And it's like, wow, this is a movie that I did not expect. And then all of a sudden, he's just maiming dudes in his backyard.
Right. They just wreck the house. Jennifer Garner's going to be pissed.
No, we don't see her again.
But then... Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Zoe
We never get
Saldana
to see her
shows
react
up
to the mess in her house. Yeah.
No. And she, the wife, I didn't mention it was her.
Yeah.
Fucking Gamora shows up and starts killing people as well. And you kind of sensed it as like, yeah, his mission to find her is over. And now they're going to add a new element into it, which was what was she killed for? And so she brings him to this cabin because she was, I guess, just staying out of history.
Yeah,
they
she
fucked
had to hide
immediately.
Yeah, of course they do. He hasn't seen her in like 4 years. They haven't seen each other in 4 years. Yeah.
And then she tells him, "Oh yeah, fucking Catherine Keener biffed herself. That's why the person in charge of time travel. It's a monopoly, like one company. Apparently, she went back in time and told herself how to get powerful and rich. She had her bet on the stock market and stuff.
Had her invest in certain companies and buy up other companies, etc. And then basically freezing everybody else out of time travel, which Ryan Reynolds' dad is about to invent, Mark Ruffalo. I actually really liked that. Introducing the idea that the timeline has already been changed. Like we don't.
Yeah, because
it already happened.
Yeah,
we're living in the altered timeline.
Yeah, when they meet Ruffles, he's like, "You shouldn't be doing this," and they're basically like, "It's already fucked." And it was a good idea, I thought.
Yeah, and that's like the whole the reason Zoe Saldana came back to 2018 is that I think this is what she says, is that she saw a ship returned from 2018, but there was no record of a trip ever being made. And then it's like, well, that means the timeline was changed, like whenever it sent.
Right.
So that was a cool idea. It was a good way to do that.
It's also why I had no problem bringing back the dad at the end, because it's not the right timeline.
Mm-hmm.
So like it seemed to imply like, oh yeah, maybe it was never his time.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I don't know. And so
his car accident is truly unrelated to the plot. It's something that happens to him.
And so they have to go back in time even more because they realize, okay, this is all fucked. We're going to go back and just uninvent time travel, period.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really also like that because they're not setting up a franchise here.
No, it ends. It ends. That's great.
Yeah, they could, if they wanted to, cram a sequel in here. But it
always
ends,
do that.
The movie ends.
Right.
The story ends.
It ends as definitively as E.T. ends, And I mean, they toyed around with the idea of making an E.T. sequel for years too. But like, it's a complete story, and I also respect the shit out of that.
Yeah, I respect immensely what they were trying to do with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing where it's like the movie almost feels infected by the sensibilities of today that are bad.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, that's such a shame. Like you were trying to do something that was like back to like not old movies, but like back to the fundamentals of blockbusters, of like making a real movie that has a beginning, middle, and most importantly, an end.
An ending, yeah.
And that was an original thought. And then it got like infected by like the superhero fucking Star Wars bullshit. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But so yeah, they go see Ruffles, his dad. And there's a nice little thing where he like physically fights his dad.
Yeah.
And I like how they make his dad just instantly know what happened.
Yeah.
He just sees him and he's like, oh, you're Adam. Oh, time travel.
Like, oh, fuck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because he's working on, like, he knows what he already has a computer running this algorithm that he made. So he already knows he's basically invented it.
They also do this like kind of quasi spiritual idea that it doesn't like people just sense each other. Like they do it with the mom when he's in the bar where like she clearly gets a vibe from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the whole plot with his wife too, where they're like, well, like she gets fucking killed. And then so he like, which I also liked because it raised the stakes where it's like, yeah, you have to cancel time travel. And the idea is we wouldn't have met if time travel didn't get invented. And she says like, we'll find each other. And there's this implication that people are connected on a spiritual level, I guess love. And so like that also works for Ruffles where he sees him and instantly just knows this is my son. And so, yeah, it's a little bit of like, I can't help you because of science. And he's like, you have to help us. And then that just gets resolved. He helps him. And then the movie felt short. They go to the...
Which I also appreciated. It's only about an hour. It's only about an hour and 40 minutes. Like this movie, even with the goofy whiplash moments of action scenes, this movie is actually paced pretty well.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I looked at like Ryan Reynolds and the kid are getting into his time machine at like minute 15.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was like, sweet, we're moving.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the forest scene where they just do Star Wars, where they're on like speeders.
Oh yeah,
speeder bikes.
Yeah, they basically
And
just
it
do
was
the
like,
speeder
Jesus
bike chase.
Christ.
Yep. It's whatever. It's
and
like the action
it's
doesn't.
whatever.
The action doesn't look bad, but it's also like it's so out of place here.
Could have literally been Ryan Reynolds fighting another person one-on-one in a fist fight. And that would have been just as exciting, if not more exciting.
The bad guy, Christos. Like this movie does another thing that's feels like a throwback, but I think it's really, like you were saying, it's more like a fundamental thing where it has like, I'm going to walk that back. I don't think it's a fundamental thing. It's just a throwback thing that I like. It has like a bad guy and then also like a mini boss. You know what I mean? Like there was always there was always like a henchman, like a cool henchman. And this movie has that. So it could have just been that guy that's chasing them on behalf of Catherine Keener.
Right.
Yeah, there's all those fight if they want to do you did anyway, yeah. They had all the pieces there and they just clumsies it up with this Marvel stuff. But anyway.
And so so they go to the place. There's a hard drive that they have to destroy.
Sure, yeah.
Which is exactly.
Yeah, it's fine.
In this particle accelerator. And boy, that set, it really felt like Agent Cody Banks. Like everything was like super clean and like metallic, and it was just like, oh God,
that whole finale and the climax in the reactor is bad. It's just bad.
It's bad. Also, they set this thing up with Kathleen Keener, where Catherine Keener, old evil Keener,
evil Keens,
when she goes back and talks to her weirdly de-aged self, they did not do a great job.
They didn't because she's been in movies for like 30 years. Like we know what Catherine Keener looked like 20 years ago. You guys didn't have like it doesn't look like her is the thing.
It doesn't.
It's like you guys didn't have reference photos.
But they make her young self this idealistic person.
That scene was really good. But
it was really good.
All the drama scenes are really good. Like that one scene where her future self, they do the Ron Silver thing from Time Cop. Her future self goes and meets her younger self to have a scene with her to explain her. He's like, I thought I was never going to see you again. You came and told me to buy stock in all these horrible companies. And she's like, you got to do something else now. grown-up Adam is here. He's going to fuck up everything, and everything you gave your entire life for is going to be at risk. So they kind of show. First of all, it's just a good scene. It's fun to watch Catherine Keener play two different versions of herself.
Yeah, and it also she says like these horrible companies. She's like, well, you bought them, didn't you?
Yeah,
you know, like
you
there's a
still
lot
did
of
it.
that.
Yeah, you still
and
did it.
And she's like, I don't. And she keeps saying like, I don't want to do this. And she's like, but if you don't do this, you're just going to be lonely. This is all you have is this company.
Yeah, it's really
and so
yeah. I was just going to say it's a really efficient, elegant, and well executed way to get across what her motivation is.
But it sets up something that they don't pay off, because the movie is also about being mad at your younger self.
Yes.
Or your older self.
Yes.
It's about the idea of seeing your future self and seeing this bitterness of all these years. And that's what's going on between them.
Yeah.
And the ending is they fight in this particle accelerator. And I bet, I actually kind of think they might have done this as an alternate and they were like too dark. I thought the young Keener was going to Looper herself. I thought she was going to kill herself.
No, I didn't.
Because,
I never thought that was going to happen because
really?
Yeah,
because
that wasn't.
Or I thought she was either going to do that or stand up to herself.
Do more,
because they set up this idea that she doesn't like who she becomes.
Right.
And like I thought they were going to do something with that.
No,
and what happens instead?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, Keener is faced off against the Ruffles, and she's got a gun, and he's just like, go ahead, shoot. And this particle accelerator the whole time has been magnetically sucking things in. I would say at random.
Yeah, except for the gun in Catherine Keener's hand at this moment.
Yeah, like
anyway.
it whenever it was convenient to the plot.
Yeah,
basically,
pretty much. Yeah,
it's magnetic.
Yeah,
and she fires the bullet, and it magnetically pulls the bullet into her younger self and kills her younger self, and therefore her older self. And I thought that was dark, because her younger self has no agency. She's just this sniveling little shit. And she keeps saying like, yeah, I can't believe you had me sell this or buy this stock. So there's this feeling of like, she's going to stand up to her older self somehow. And she never does. She just gets shot.
I'm going to push back on that because I think that's her character, right? Her character.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it's a tragic ending.
Yeah, and her character doesn't have it's a little bit of the fatalism that sort of ties into like Mark Ruffalo's fate doesn't get changed. It's like a core part of her character is that she doesn't have the will to stand up and do the right thing. She knows it's wrong, but still did it anyway. So I think that is, and then her dying by being shot accidentally by her former self, which I actually didn't mind that part of it because they get to have that
a fun idea.
And they get to have that fun exchange where she says you never understood the bigger picture and shoots the gun, and then Ruffalo says you never understood the science, and the bullet gets trapped by the magnetism and kills her younger self. It's like that perfectly explains their dynamic. So I think it's both in her younger self. It shows that she never had that spine to be good,
right?
Even if she wanted, like she's idealistic, but it was really never in her. Like she just was too. And then her older self it's self-destructive, right? It's self-destruction is what we're looking at. So I didn't mind that didn't happen. Like that fit with what her character was.
No, that totally fits with her character. It's more of like the movie felt like it was setting her up to be better than herself. And the point of the movie being that you can't change some things, but you can change yourself. Like, that's kind of the idea, right?
Yeah.
It's like he can't save his dad, but how he feels about his dad, he can change. So I just thought that would have been there. It was like kind of just there for them, but it was fine. Well, it was fine except for the ending was just
the climb,
bunch of flipping around and weird bullshit.
It was really, really bad. We don't need to go into it. It's just, if you watch the movie,
it's like a ticking clock.
It's
like,
so,
what even is this?
Agent Cody Banks is the perfect way to describe it. It is corny and cartoonish. Nobody is behaving like there's a huge reactor that's about to explode or that the universe as we know it is in jeopardy. Like, everybody's being real glib. It's just a very embarrassing climax up until that final exchange when Catherine Keener dies.
After again, climax, not ending.
The climax, not the ending.
It seems like this movie was able to treat kids like adults when it came to the emotional core of the characters. It seemed like it greatly underestimated kids when it came to the action. And like, I don't know if we need blood and guts here. It doesn't have to be as grim as, say, Indiana Jones. But you look at Back to the Future, that's sort of
there's not
the level I was expecting.
Right,
In
or
Back
like-
to the Future, there's no action.
Right, if the
He's
movie's
not fighting people.
the movies it's directly, quoting are Back to the Future, E.T., Flight of the Navigator. Those are not action movies.
no,
And
they're
kids
not. And
loved
that's what
those
it is.
movies. Like E.T. was the biggest fucking movie of all time when it came out. Like there's no action in that movie.
No action.
You don't
There's
need to
suspense.
throw in random Marvel action sequences to hold kids' attention. You just don't.
Right. You can do suspense. You can do tension. You can find fun ways to do it.
Yeah.
But like, it just seemed like it honestly felt like the entire plot of the villains could have been removed. And the issue could have been more, well, I don't want it to be exactly Back to the Future, but it could be on that level of time machine's broken. We have to do this stuff, like it could, or they find a clever way where it's the villains are after them, but they don't have to fucking ninja fight them.
Right. Like how would she?
Like I can even see a version where it's just the action is simply more grounded.
Right. Where
and then that's better.
Yeah. If it was. Yeah, you could have made a way scaled back version where she's not literally flying around in the past with her future army. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like if it was just her and her little henchman Christos, that would have made
Right.
more sense.
Maybe it's like they're on the run.
and
you
they're
know?
not
And
less
it's
threatening because Ryan Reynolds starts the movie shot. So it's like, it's already,
Right.
he's like, he can't really defend himself or the kid.
Until he
gets his lightsaber.
Until he just
I'm saying like the pieces were there to
Yeah.
do a
the
move.
pieces were there.
Yeah.
Do something where keep him very injured throughout.
Yeah.
And
or there's
have
just
it so that the kid has to handle everything.
right, or that they have
Like
to
the
handle
kid.
it in like they have him have these future gear like a drone and a lightsaber, which is not it's not a bad instinct. Obviously, you'd want it. Well, if he's come from the future, surely he would have some future cool gadgets, right? Yeah, just have them be more, I don't know, cerebral. I don't know. It's just less that
Or
doesn't require you to flip through the air.
yeah, or break them all immediately.
Yeah.
Make the bit be, oh, if I wasn't shot, I'd be flipping through the air right now.
Yeah.
But I'm shot. Do Iron Man 3, like do something where they have to use their wits.
Exactly, yeah.
Because it was so boring the moment they started fighting, because it's just a big CGI. Like, I don't think they even used stuntmen. Like it felt like it was Blade 2 energy.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm not even certain that's a human flipping through the air.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are we doing? Why would you
it's
ever
not-
think to do this?
Those sequences are the only time watching this movie I had to fight the urge to look at my phone. And that says a lot. It's like you didn't.
says a lot.
You didn't need. I was super engaged in the characters and their story. I don't need this nonsense.
Right. So, like, in terms of going back to the first question, like, how did I like this? How could I recommend it? I'm not sure. I'm really not, because that stuff was such cat shit.
Yeah, that stuff was cat
like,
shit. It was the oldest, crustiest cat shit. There's cat shits you don't find for a while, and they just have become fused with the carpet when you finally
Right.
find them. I know you know.
No, I know. And it's so
yeah.
entwined with the plot that it's like those heartfelt scenes are so good, but it's kind of like it's like do-over. It's like you fucked it up. You fucked up your movie.
Yeah,
and so like I'm gonna need you to make a new one.
I think they hobbled their movie for sure. I do think that the stuff that's good is good enough for me to say
Very good.
you should watch this movie. Like it as the sum of its parts, I think it is worth watching.
Yeah, I would recommend it with a lot of warnings, where it'd be
just
like, so here's the deal with this movie.
The first 10 minutes you're gonna be like, Jesus, I don't know about this. It's gonna be a little rough at first, but as soon as you start hitting that juicy dramatic stuff, it's good. And like I actually in that last scene where Mark Ruffalo is just looking Ryan Reynolds in the face, and it's like, I love you, you're my boy, you will always be my boy. He's saying all the things that Ryan Reynolds needed to hear and was so angry about this loss for his entire life. Like, I cried during that scene. I lost my stepdad like 6 months ago. So it's like this movie
And
made
it's
me
very
cry
sad.
with its profound it's sad, but it's also, I keep saying profound, but it is. It was surprisingly so. Like it was more thoughtful than I ever would have expected, and it says good things about grief and the grieving process. So this movie had both the power to make me, shed genuine tears, and then also like laugh at how fucking goofy and stupid its action. It's like badly shoehorned action was. So but I think the good parts are good enough for me to say, yeah, watch this movie.
Yeah. What it says about grieving is very good. It's a very fascinating film. It's very derivative, but it's taking all these derivative ideas and using them to tell in a meaningful character story. Mm-hmm. Like the stuff with dealing with the dad there's versions of this in other films, but it was very fresh, I thought. It's just all the devices, everything around it.
I think the most surprising thing, what made it fresh for me, is how when this movie wants to be genuine, it is unabashedly so. It's not embarrassed. And then the rest of the movie, it feels like it's embarrassed to be genuine.
Right. It sometimes punctuates with a joke here and there, but not the parts that matter.
Not the parts that matter. Nope.
There's a sweetness. Mm-hmm. There's a jokey sweetness, but it's not like, oh, we have to break the tension. We have to act cool again. It definitely looks that stuff in the face and doesn't flinch.
Yeah.
And that's great. And I really respect what this film is trying to do, which is tell a original film. Like, I want this movie to succeed because I want us to move away from a lot of what we're doing right now. The problem is a lot of what we're doing right now is also in this film.
Yeah. Also, the fact that it's a Netflix release is not... Yeah. Like, I don't think with movies... This is one thing that I genuinely do lament about the decline of theater attendance, is that it's harder for a movie to take hold. You know what I mean? Like, it's harder for a movie to grab the zeitgeist. It's harder for a movie to become one of those indispensable movies when it's just another movie in a sea of hundreds that were dropped on whatever streaming service you prefer within the same month. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much more noise on streaming that it's harder for movies to sort of catch.
Oh yeah, it's that thing where it's just everything's more niche now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, everything has a fan base that's small. Everything's a cult following. It's just frustrating with this guy, because if you remember, I said this about Free Guy 2, which is like they lean on references in that movie.
Yeah.
And it's that thing where it's like, I kind of wish one of these movies, I feel like they'd succeed more if they didn't feel that crutch, that need for the crutch. Because this leans on it too, where they're like, don't worry, folks, look, it's like a lightsaber. Look, he's like a superhero. And so, like, I just wish, it's frustrating. I'm frustrated by these movies because they are telling these emotional stories and they clearly know that characters come first and they clearly have heart, but it's just like, just go for it, guys. Like, just go for originality. Stop teasing it. Like, just do it.
I imagine it's probably real hard to get money for a project like this unless it looks like a Marvel movie.
Right. I don't know this director. I don't know. Maybe these are all his ideas. Maybe he does. Maybe he's a dipshit and doesn't get it. Or this is like a flower growing through concrete, where it's like they're trying. Like, maybe if the director was hearing me right now, he'd be like, man, I'm trying so hard to do that. And they're giving me only so much leeway. Like, I don't know what the story is, but it feels like they keep brushing. It's just like just the tip of originality. And then they just won't commit. And it's like, fucking commit, do something wacky, do something I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Because the heart's there. Yeah, I don't have I don't
have anything else to say.
Okay. But yeah, it was a fun movie.
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, it's mostly pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mostly pretty good.
Mostly pretty good. with some big asterisks. All right, Dave, why don't you tell them some stuff?
Yeah. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. We have a Patreon. If you're interested, it's called patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. For just $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of exclusive podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek: The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We also watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. This weekend we watched Pure Luck and Loose Cannons.
Loose Cannons. Yeah.
So, that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
That's something
That's some horse shit we're going to watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you could come join that party. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs. You can get on T-shirts, believe it or not, stickers, mugs, posters, all kinds of things. So check that out.
I like T-shirts.
Yeah. Fucking
Their
T-shirts.
shirt. Is it just because they're a shirt that looks like the shape of a T?
Uh-huh.
Oh, God damn it. All right. All shirts are in the shape of a T. What makes them so fucking special?
Not really.
A sweater looks like a T.
No, a sweater looks like a fucked up
More.
weird. A sweater looks like a table.
A sweater does not look like a table.
The top of a T should not be longer than its base.
Can be.
No, it can't. Then it's just a cross, Dave.
They should call it a table
Or
shirt.
a plus
then.
sign. Then it's
Call
just
it a
a
table
weird
shirt.
plus sign or a crucifix.
Yeah. Then I don't know, man. Should an S be called an I? A vest? Vest is an eye shirt. Do vests look like eyes?
Oh,
They look like eyes,
I don't
right?
care about this conversation.